But before we start, I want to introduce you to these folks up here. These are the department directors for all of our different city departments. And I'm just going to have them introduce themselves, starting with Bob Studi.
Yeah, Bob Studi, I'm Director of Public Works.
Brooke Bench, I'm Parks and Recreation. I'm Dave Fans, I'm the Planning Director.
Dan Olson, Fire Chief.
Don Waller, City Treasurer.
Keith Baxter, Omaha Convention Visitors Bureau.
Franklin Thompson, Human Rights and Relations.
And then I have some of my staff that's, Paul Kretz, City Attorney, is way in the back. Where are you way in the back? He always does that. And then some of my staff in my office, Marty Bielik, Chief of Staff, Carrie Murphy, that you just met, Deputy Chief of Staff, Troy Anderson, Deputy Chief of Staff. Where's Kevin? Kevin Anderson is another Deputy Chief of Staff. Some of we have lots of Deputy Chiefs of Staff. Amber Parker, Grant Administrator. Am I missing somebody? Oh, some of our, Terry Armstrong is in the back, works in my office. Two of the hotline assistants, if you call the hotline a lot, that's the face behind those nice voices. Raise your hands back there. Hotline. And Paul Dunn is here from the Public Works Department, and he's going to do a little demonstration pretty soon with, guess what? Those are what the new trash carts are going to probably look very similar to. So we want to show you those tonight too. So on your seat, you have two brochures. One you might have seen already, which is one that really just tells a lot about what's going on in the city now and my goals. Another one is a brand new one. It's called the Roadmap for Better Streets, and that's one that we're going to talk about tonight as far as the condition of our streets and what I'm proposing that we do about it. Also, my husband, Joe Stothert, Dr. Stothert, is right there in the front row. He's always right there in the front row. So let me just start out with saying our work in Omaha, all of our work here, and we work as a team, is based on my 4 goals. And those goals will be my goals as long as I'm mayor of Omaha. Number 1 is public safety. That's my first and foremost responsibility, is keeping the citizens of Omaha safe. Number 2, managing the city budget. Number 3 is job growth and economic development. And number 4 is improving the taxpayer experience. And I'm going to spend more time on that 4th goal tonight. I usually don't, because part of the taxpayer experience is the condition of our roads, and it's also that trash contract that was just approved by the city council. But I'll go through this as quick as I can, because I do want to spend a lot of time on taking your questions tonight. And I have all these directors here because I want to get your questions answered, and if I can't answer it, hopefully somebody here can. So first of all, public safety. There's a lot of exciting new projects that are going on. Excuse me, I was looking at the wrong thing here. Number 1, public safety. As I said before, that is my primary responsibility, is keeping the citizens of Omaha safe. And when you talk about public safety, most people think fire department, police department. It has so much to do with fire and police, but it really has something to do with almost every one of these city departments. Keeping the citizens safe means getting your trash picked up, it means keeping your street lights working, it means getting the snow plowed and the ice removed, and the parks in good conditions and the codes enforced. So almost every one of these departments does have something to do with public safety. But let me focus on fire and police tonight. As far as the Omaha Police Department, we have increased our number of police officers to a historic high in 2019. We are budgeted for 902 officers. That's more than we have ever had. Our next recruit class will begin in December. We just did the ribbon cutting today on our 5th police precinct, which is out at 204th and Cumberland, out in Elkhorn. That was open today. That's a great, efficient building out there. It's huge. It's right by the bowling alley out there. But we really had 4 needs, and one was for a new uniform patrol out west for our 5th police precinct. We also had a need for a SWAT team, our traffic division, and our bomb squad. And we designed a very, very efficient building that will house all 4 of those. And the boundaries of all 5 precincts now have been redrawn, and it will really improve our coverage and our response time throughout the entire city with that. And so they are up and running out in Elkhorn now. Our crime statistics are very, very good. I could tell you about adding more police officers and a new police precinct, but you want results, and we have seen really good results. And as of today, we have had 12 homicides in 2019, and that is a remarkably low number. In 2018, to put it in perspective, we had 22, and that was the lowest homicide rate in over 25 years. And this isn't just a fluke, this is a trend that we have been seeing. To put it in perspective, and Chief Schmatter is here, in 2015 we had 50 homicides, 16 we had 39, 17 we had 30. It keeps on going down. Last year 22, right now we're at 12. So of course we have a lot of months to go, a couple more months to go in the year, but those numbers are looking very good for us. Also, the number of shootings continues to decline, and that is really positive too. The fire department, last 2 years, 42 new firefighters have graduated from the academy. We have a new station alerting system in all of our 22 fire stations throughout the city, and this transmits the information from 911 when the calls come in into our stations about fire and medic calls. Since 2013, we have replaced more than 20 engines and trucks and medic units. We are now purchasing a backup set of turnout gear for all of our firefighters, and we're going to be building 2 new fire stations. We did a study several years ago when Chief Hanger was the chief about if all of our fire stations were in the proper positions throughout the city to get uniform response times. And with that study, we found that 2 stations we currently have need to be moved and replaced. One is at the old Station 31 down in South Omaha at 25th and L Street. And then another one is the fire station at 80th and Dodge, that's on the south side of Dodge by that village in there. Both of those need to be replaced, and we do have the money in our capital improvement plan to replace those 2 fire stations and get them in a better location. In fact, this City Council will vote next week on the land to purchase for Station 31, which is replacing the one in South Omaha. Goal number 2, I'm going to go pretty quick on these, is to manage the city budget. The taxpayers in Omaha want property tax relief, and we have reduced the property tax rate twice. One thing that people ask me very frequently, and I want to turn you to this brochure. There's a little dollar bill in here on one of the pages. This is supposed to be a dollar bill. But people ask me all the time, they say, I pay a lot of property taxes. What do you do with my property taxes? And this little dollar bill really explains where that property tax bill, that the taxes that you pay go. It shows on here that the taxes that you pay, 61.5% of those taxes go to the school districts, the public school districts. 21.5% goes to the city of Omaha. 12.5% to Douglas County Board, and the rest goes to the other taxing entities like the NRD or Metro Community College. So with that $1 you pay in property tax, only 21% goes to the city of Omaha. And with that 21%, we fund all of these departments. So that's public works, it's planning, it's parks, it's fire department, police department. So we only get a sliver of that money that you pay with your property taxes. But we still wanted to show that we could run the city efficiently with a lower tax levy, and we have lowered that levy twice. Since 2013, when I became mayor, our budget has grown year over year, the general fund budget, an average of about 3.7% a year. The city council has already approved the 2020 budget. They did that this summer. The 2020 budget, the general fund is a little bit over $400 million, and the all-fund budget that has our bonds in it is a little over $1 billion now. When the city council approves the budget, it goes into effect January 1st of the year. It's balanced to the penny. At the end of the year, it has to be balanced to the penny. And it's my job with the help of the finance department to make sure we stay in balance. So we don't just pass it and look at it at the end of the year. We look at it month after month after month, and we make sure every department is staying within their budget. And we also do a quarterly report out to the community so that you can see how each department is doing. In the 2020 budget, department spending, all the city departments, it will increase just about 2.2%. And that is one of the goals that we had, is to keep that year-over-year spending increase as low as we possibly can. Some of the highlights of the 2020 budget, I just wanted to mention fire and police department, because the police budget will be right under $160 million. Fire budget is right at $110 million. And to just put that in perspective about how we have really placed a priority on public safety, the police budget, like I said, is right around 160 million. When I became mayor in 2013, it was 122 million. The fire department's budget, 110 million in 2020. In 2013, it was 83 million. So you could see that we really put a priority on increasing the budgets of those departments that we felt like really needed to be focused on. But even with that, we have lowered the levy twice. So we've been trying to manage your tax dollars very, very efficiently. Some other things, street resurfacing, it's at a historic high too. There's about 12.6 million in the 2020 budget for resurfacing. To put that in perspective, when I was on the city council, I remember in 2010, we had about 2.5 million in the budget for the entire year for our roads. And we're up to about 12.5 million now. We're also in 2020, we're adding employees in street maintenance and sewer maintenance, and we're also adding some more housing inspectors in the Public Works and Planning Department. We are also adding funding for a new fall cleanup. We've had a spring cleanup for many, many years in Omaha, and now we're going to also have a fall cleanup. And we're going to begin education and outreach for our new trash contract that the City Council has approved that will go into effect January 1st of 2021. So waste management will still be the hauler throughout all of 2020. This new contract starts in 2021. Another thing that is in the 2020 budget, it was also in the 2019 budget, is we have really put an emphasis on workforce training. We have a labor shortage in Omaha. We have jobs out there, but we still have people that are unemployed or underemployed, and we feel it was worth our investment to invest in workforce development and work training to get those people that are underemployed or unemployed the skills for the jobs that are out there. And so, Step Up program that the Empowerment, Willie Barney in the back of the room puts on, we remain their largest funder at about $1 million a year for the Step Up Summer Jobs program. We give over $650,000 a year to Heartland Workforce Solution. And we also have a new program that we're funding that is very successful so far. It's run through the Parks Department with Brooke, where are you? You just But anyway, it's to really focus on our homeless. It is a program that I modeled after a program that the mayor in Albuquerque started, and his was called, what was his called? There's a Better Way, and ours is called The Way to Work. And our partner is the Salvation Army, but we actually have a van that will go around the city at areas where the homeless tend to gather at, and they also look at some of the shelters. And what they do is basically bring those people, there's 6 in the program at a time, they bring them to our Parks Department and they give them work and they pay them salary. And they learn new skills. And then the other days of the week when they're not working, they get counseling and the services that they need. And we've had graduates from that program already, and they're doing pretty great work for our Parks Department. Goal number 3, job growth and economic development. There's some really good things going on, and I'm going to really target North Omaha with what I'm going to talk about tonight. The Choice Grant. Omaha has received a $25 million Choice Grant from HUD to expand the great work that's underway at the 75 North Highlander project. And Omaha is just one of 3 cities in the entire country to receive this grant. And the city of Omaha was the recipient of the grant from HUD, but our primary partners are Omaha Housing Authority and the 75 North project. The Spencer Street housing projects will be removed and they will be replaced with mixed income housing with this project. Building on the successful Highlander development and the neighboring Prospect Village development, we really feel that we can change and adapt to the needs of those who live in that area. So this was a great thing when we found out that we won that grant. So that $25 million will go into that project, but the total project, Dave, you would know, it's probably around 90 million? 100, I'm really short. It's a $190 million project. There's also a initiative from our planning department that's called the Forever North Study, and that is to study housing and multimodal transportation along North 24th Street corridor. The study area is from Cummings to Ames Street, from 22nd to 27th Street. And the study period is April through December of this year. The goals of this study is to develop plans for pedestrian-friendly housing development around transit stops and around commercial areas. And this is that area just in the 24th Street corridor that I told you about. It's also studying future development sites and land use in that area, community-oriented projects, and there's been a lot of community input through workshops and focus groups and surveys and social medias. So that study will continue as our goal to develop that 24th Street corridor. We're also working on a North 24th Street Business Improvement District, or we call them BIDs. And we're working with the business owners to create business improvement district in this area. This is a large area that we have already defined. The boundaries are Ames on the north and all the way down to Cummings on the south. It will be our largest BID that we have. It has been approved by the city council, and now it is the time that I will have to appoint that board, and then the board that I will recommend and appoint goes to the city council for final approval. What business improvement districts do is they empower the business owners in those areas to work with the city on improvements for that area. And other successful BIDs that we have in Omaha now, we have one in Benson, Blackstone, we have a BID downtown, and we have a newly created BID in Elkhorn. Ames Locust area, that's something we've been talking about since I've been mayor. And just recently, a developer has submitted a plan to develop Enterprise Industrial Park on this site near 14th and Locust Street. They intend to divide that site up into divide it up into single lots, right? Zoned for heavy industrial, am I saying that right, Dave? Including soils and aggregate storage, concrete crushing and processing, trailer storage, and there's a railroad loading yard there too. So that has been talked about for a long time, that area. It's pretty much a landfill now. It's owned by Virgil Anderson, but I think we're going to see some development. Well, it's not going to be a development, but we're going to see some use in that area that I think will be very positive. Park improvements, there's been a lot in District 2. I wanted to mention a few. Miller Park, there's been over $5 million of improvements in Miller Park. Some of those improvements include the new Kerry Orozco baseball field. And if you haven't seen that baseball field in Miller Park, I hope you go and take a look at it. It's pretty darn amazing what that field looks like now. There's a new splash ground in Miller Park that was opened in July. There's a new 1.5-mile trail around the park. There's pickleball and basketball courts that have been put in. Another park, Fontenelle Park, there's a larger, deeper now fishing lagoon, and there's other projects that have happened in Fontenelle that are tied to the CSO, the sewer project work. And then Levi Carter Park. If you haven't seen that, that's pretty cool too. There's a new splash ground, the pavilion has been redone, and there's been a $1.4 million playground put in too. So lots of work done up at that park too. So now I'm going to move on to my goal number 4, improving the taxpayer experience. And 2 areas I want to really focus on tonight is a new trash contract, and then also talking about our roads, because I want to get, especially the conversation with our roads, I want to get your input on it. First of all, I want to say, as far as the trash contract goes, Omaha is the only city in the state that's considered a city of metropolitan class, and that's defined by the number of people in it. And state law says that all cities of the metropolitan class cannot charge for essential city services directly to the property owners or the homeowners or the business owners. Any other city in the state of Nebraska, whether it's Bellevue, whether it's Lincoln, if you want to get your trash picked up, you go find a hauler and you pay for it. In Omaha, we can't do that. We're not allowed by state law. The city has to negotiate the trash contract for the entire city. Now, you do pay for it with your taxes, but still the city negotiates the contract. So why do we have to change? Because the current contract will expire. I have a lot of people say, well, I like what we have now, just keep it. But that contract with Waste Management, it has actually been in effect since 2006. If you remember, it was Deffenbaugh that actually negotiated that contract. Waste Management bought Deffenbaugh. But it expires December 31st, 2020. And we will not have a contract in Omaha to pick up trash unless we negotiated a new contract. What we did find out in all of our studies that we did, and our pre-bid meetings and everything, that we could not find any company in the country that would vote or that would bid on a contract like we have today. any kind of trash cans you want, unlimited trash, unlimited yard waste, the old system with diesel-powered trucks, 2 on a truck, guys hauling and picking up the trash cans like they do now. Nobody wanted to do that. We knew we needed to do a new modernized system, like most cities have. Or if you live in an SID within the city of Omaha or out on the outskirts, that's exactly what you have now. So what we wanted is a modernized system, an automated system, and those are the arms that come down and grab the trash cans. We wanted the covered carts. The example are those carts right over there. We wanted trucks that were fueled by some sort of alternative fuel, such as CNG, compressed natural gas. And so we did a lot of work. We did 3 years of work because we wanted to put out for bid a contract that suited the majority of the taxpayers' needs, knowing not everybody would get the service that they want, but we wanted to do the majority. So we did demonstrations, we did surveys, we did town hall meetings. We did a pilot of 2,500 households over 6 months, and we delivered these carts to people, had them try it, and then we did a survey after they tried it. After all of that work, I recommended, along with the Public Works Department, well, let me back up a minute. We put it out to bid, we got 4 bidders. Waste Management, that is our current hauler, was the high bidder. The low bidder was a very small company out of Minnesota, that their largest contract was half the size of one of our city council districts. The next lowest bidder was FCC, which is a worldwide company. They're all over the world. They originated out of Spain, but they already have a presence in the United States. After all of this research, the Public Works Department and myself recommended FCC, environmental, to the city council. But we also knew that the new contract was going to cost us more. Currently, Waste Management contract costs us about $14 million a year. In all of our studies, we knew it was probably going to be twice that much for a new modernized system. And the company FCC that we recommended is about $10 million more a year than we pay now. It's $24 million a year. But we still felt like, even though it wasn't the lowest bid, it was the best bid. And that's the one Public Works and I recommended to the council. If you kept on watching that discussion, the council, when we first put it on the agenda, they voted it down. We made some adjustments, especially for yard waste. What we added is we put a bid out for unlimited yard waste collection curbside during the peak times during the spring and fall when most of the yard waste occurs. So for about 6 weeks in the spring and 6 weeks in the fall, people can put out unlimited yard waste curbside and we will pick it up. That we pick up during that time will all go to Omaha or made into compost so we can continue making the Omaha too. Another thing that we recommended was a 2-cart system. That's 2 of those big carts, those 96-gallon carts. One was for yard waste and solid waste combined, and the other was for recyclables. And what we said is after you try it for 90 days, if you absolutely hate those big 96-gallon carts, the big one, you can exchange it for a smaller cart at no cost to you. We also added, if you wanted, this is a 2-cart system, if you wanted a 3rd cart and you have a family of 5 or more, we would give you a 3rd cart for no cost to you. If you didn't have 5 or more in your family, but you still wanted a 3rd cart, we would give it to you, but it would cost about $90 a year for that 3rd cart. I will tell you this, when we did the pilot of 2,500 households, the number 1 concern complaint we had at the beginning was, I don't want a 96-gallon cart, I don't know what to do with it, I don't know where I'll put it. After the pilot was over, the number 1 thing we heard is, don't take away my 96-gallon cart because I really love it, once they got used to it. So you can have a chance to look at those carts tonight. Everybody will get at least 2 of the 96-gallon carts. It's no additional cost to you. We will continue. We have a special collection program now that is offered to anyone that's over 70 or disabled that will come up to your house and get the cart so you don't have to lug it down your driveway. And we will still continue with that too. Yard waste, as I said, we were going to continue that unlimited yard waste curbside during the 2 peak periods of the year. And every bit of that will go to Omaha. I do want to mention just a little bit about Omaha. A lot of people love it. They don't like the idea of combining yard waste and solid waste together and that yard waste going out to the landfill. There's people that object to that. I will tell you, we have done a study in Omaha, and there's been studies done all over the country, that taking those organics like yard waste and putting it in the landfill, we have a methane recapturing system out there that goes into a power plant that's out there, and it creates electricity that goes out on the grid. And we have found with our studies that that is not only environmentally, but it is financially beneficial to the city to put those organics in the landfill. And so that's why you can combine your yard waste with your solid waste. If you don't want to do that, and you want to keep your yard waste separate, with this new system, besides out of those 6 weeks in the spring or fall, you can do that, but you would purchase those paper bags. And the company, we haven't got to those details yet, but the company will tell you where you can purchase those bags, and then you can put those out curbside also. Like I said, we worked on this contract for about 3 years. FCC, they are already starting work in Omaha. In fact, the day the city council finally approved that contract, I met with them and I said, well, when do we start working? And they said tonight. And so they're already working on where they are going to establish a fleet maintenance center in Omaha. They have to have a fueling facility in Omaha. They have to hire employees and train them. They have to buy the trucks. So all that's underway already. And I think that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be different. And I think you just got to give it some time, because I think once you get used to it, I think you're going to like it. At least those in the pilot did. FCC will also offer a lot of new jobs in Omaha. They're going to establish a call center here in Omaha. So if you call them about a problem, it will go directly to somebody right here in Omaha. And they're also going to establish their corporate headquarters for the Midwest here in Omaha. So there's an opportunity for jobs creation too. There'll be a lot of information that's going to be provided to all of you over the next year to make sure you're ready for the change. And I can guarantee you, when it's time to exchange those cards, everybody will have a lot of information. We are also going to work on drop-off sites where you can take your old trash cans and drop them off. They will recycle as many as they can. However, there are a lot of people that have trash cans that are over 20 years old. And a lot of those trash cans are made with things that are not recyclable. So the ones that they can recycle, they will. Some they won't be able to and will end up in a landfill, but we will get you all that information to you when the time draws near. So that's about the trash contract. And again, if you have questions, I'll get to those in just a few minutes. It will be different, but again, we had to do it. We really had no choice. I feel like with the $10 million more that we pay now, we could work that into the city budget by carefully prioritizing our budget and managing it without a tax increase. Anything much more than that, I don't see how we could fund it without a tax increase, and that's one thing I said I did not want to do. For example, Waste Management, who we have now, they were the high bidder, and I believe their bid was, I believe it was 28 or 29 million. About 28 or 29 million, where FCC was 24. So you can see they bid a lot higher than what the other companies did. I will bring this up about trash though. This is an automated system. However, there are parts of the city, particularly in northeast Omaha, where the streets are narrow, people park on the streets, there's alleys, there's low-hanging trees, that it will be a semi-automated system. It will still be automated, but somebody will come out of the truck and move your can to the back of the truck, and then the arms will come down and put it into the truck. So it's going to be a combination. The others are side loaders that will happen in the areas that don't have street parking, and that they can handle that. So it is a combination of automated and semi-automated. Let's move on to roads, because I think that that's something I want to spend a little time on so you understand what is going on, and I really want to get your input on this. And this is what this brochure is about. In July, we held a series of 4 town hall meetings all over the city to get feedback on how we can create and pay for a pavement maintenance program within the city of Omaha. We've never had one. And here's everything in a nutshell about our streets. As you all know, with the type of winter we had last winter in the spring, our streets just exploded. There were potholes everywhere, all over the city. They were in really bad shape. We spent about $12.5 million just this year on pothole repair alone. We used over 9,000 tons of asphalt. We repaired over 67,000 potholes across the city of Omaha. That is a symptom of the problem that we have. We have about 5,000 lane miles of road in Omaha. They've been underfunded for 50 years. Every year they get a year older. They're not getting any younger. What we have done is underfunded them. And here's everything in a nutshell. I've been working with the Public Works Department and the Finance Department since I've been mayor to add more and more money to street resurfacing every year. But we decided to really take a deep dive and work with the experts. So I got Lamper Nearson, HDR, Olson Associates, Benish. I got a lot of people to work with the Public Works Department to determine really what we are spending now and what we should be spending. First of all, you start out with what the surface value of our roads are in Omaha. That was determined to be about $1.5 million. We should be spending, according to the experts, about 5% a year of that total amount, $1.5 billion, on resurfacing roads. That 5% comes to $75 million is what we should be spending every year on roads. We are spending $41 million a year on roads. So there's a $34 million gap that we should be spending that we're not. We are resurfacing about 125 lane miles of road every year. We should be resurfacing about 250, double that every year. If we had the revenue to close that gap and could spend $75 million a year on road resurfacing and resurface 250 lane miles a year, that would mean once every 20 years, and 20 years is the average life of a road, it could be longer or it could be less, but that's average, we could resurface those roads once every 20 years. So that would mean we would resurface your road, and then in 20 years we do it again, and then in 20 years we do it again, and we would never let the roads get to the condition that they are now, that they are so bad we can't even fill a pothole. That is what a pavement maintenance program is. It's an ongoing pavement maintenance program that we don't allow roads to deteriorate the way they are now. So the issue is people will say, well, I pay that wheel tax, what are you doing with all that money? And all of that money that we get from the wheel tax, that you pay about $50 a year for your car, for one car, we get about $25 million a year from that. And then money from the state gas tax, we get about $45 million a year on that. But all of that money by law has to be used on roads and road-related expenses. But that not only includes road resurfacing, that includes snow removal, ice removal, pavement markers, street lights, brick street repair, concrete panel repair, crack sealing. All of that comes from that amount of money. And you could probably estimate or probably assume that that money goes pretty quickly. And that's why we are spending on the road resurfacing alone about $41 million. So we need to be spending about $75 million to really improve our roads, to get them resurfaced, and then to have a pavement maintenance program, but we don't have that revenue coming in. So what are some options? So we really looked at multiple different options that we could look at, and to me, the best option would be, and there is no plan yet, I'm just throwing this out because I'm telling you what we found out. To me, the best option would be to do a bond issue. I like the bond issue because you vote on it. If you don't vote yes, then it doesn't happen. So it's up to the taxpayers whether they approve it or not. A bond issue of $200 million would generate another $40 million a year, and that would be enough to close that gap and still have some left over to work on other road projects. If we did a $200 million bond issue and you approved it, if you were living in a $100,000 home, what you would pay would be an additional $32 a year to pay the debt. So yes, you would pay more for it, but you would know that all of that revenue, their transportation bonds, they would all go into roads. And it would cost about $32 more a year. That's less than one blown tire on $32 a year. So that is an option that we could do to have a sustainable pavement maintenance program in Omaha and would bring in that extra revenue. Now, there are other options I looked at, but I don't support them. And one of the reasons is the other options don't require a vote of the people. The city council could do it with 4 votes. You wouldn't have a say. One is to increase our wheel tax. I mentioned you pay $50 a year for a car, for one car, for the wheel tax. All that goes to roads. If we would increase the wheel tax enough to fill that gap, we would have to increase the wheel tax for one car from $50 a year to $122 a year. That's just for one car. If you had a truck or something heavier, you would pay more. And again, that one could be done by the city council. I don't favor that at all, and I don't want to do it because number one, that's an awful lot of increase in that wheel tax, but number two, you don't have a say. Another thing is sales tax. There's multiple problems with sales tax. Our sales tax that you pay is 7% a year. It's 5.5% goes to the state, 1.5% is the local option that comes to Omaha. The state, by state law, there is a cap at 2% all over the state except for Omaha, and we are capped at 1.5%. So we are at our limit for our local option sales tax. So before we could raise the sales tax, we would have to go to the legislature and get state law changed. And then we'd have to bring it, which is a long shot. And then we'd have to bring it back to our taxpayers in Omaha and let them vote on it. But there's another complication. You know that restaurant tax that everybody loves to hate? That restaurant tax, the last sentence in that ordinance, it says this restaurant tax, which brings in $33 million a year, will automatically sunset if there's an increase in the sales tax. Meaning, if the sales tax gets increased, $33 million that we're using now in the budget will go away. So you'd really have to use the first $33 million to fill that hole. So that doesn't look good either. We can still work with the state, and we still will, about sales tax exemptions. As you know, there are billions of dollars worth of sales tax exemptions right now in the state of Nebraska. That's something we've been supporting and working with the state legislature on, and I know they're going to talk about it again this year. But if they eliminated or reduced some of those sales tax exemptions that we have now in the state of Omaha, or in the state of Nebraska, it can bring in a lot more revenue into the state and therefore into the city. In fact, so much more revenue. They're saying sales tax could drop significantly, and even that state income tax could possibly go away if the sales tax of a lot of those exemptions were removed. So, but that is still something that's out of my control. That would be with the state legislature right now. So I think that the bottom line is we have an issue with our roads that's been pretty much kicked down the can for a good 50 years. I don't want to leave the next city council and the next mayor, whenever that will be, with the same problems that I inherited, and that's the roads are just getting older and older, and we do not have enough revenue to have a pavement maintenance program. If we would put a bond issue out for a vote and it would fail, I would just continue doing what we're doing. I would really try to reprioritize and put more money in the budget every year, but we're really chasing our tails. That amount of money, for example, that we spent just this spring on pothole repair, $12.5 million on pothole repair this year, I can guarantee you if we have the same winter this spring we had last spring, they'll all pop out again. And we're going to be spending all that money all over again. The pothole repair we do is just a Band-Aid. The only true permanent solution is to get those roads resurfaced. With that amount of money we spent on pothole repair, we could have resurfaced about 130 lane miles of road. Resurface them, a more permanent solution, but we spent it all on pothole repair because we had to. People were tearing up their cars. But it's such a Band-Aid solution, we don't want to just keep on doing these Band-Aid solutions year after year after year. So what I'm talking about is a much more permanent solution. So I knew I threw out a lot of numbers in here, but everything I said is in this little brochure. You can take it home and read it. But I really would like to get, there's ways to contact me on the back too. I would really like to get your opinion on what you think about a bond issue, that possibility. Like I said, it's a 5-year issuance. That means that money would come out over 5 years. Would we have to do another bond issue at the end of 5 years? We would. Would you have to pay, again, another tax increase? You wouldn't. According to the model we used, it would only be a one-time and it would be sustainable. But I think it's a good thing that we have to put it out for a vote again in 5 years, because then we could show you that what we said we were going to do, we did. And then we would get your approval to continue doing what we say we were doing. So that's kind of the issue here with our roads, and I really am interested in getting your feedback. But I would appreciate your input, because we'll gather the information we hear from everybody and then develop the plan. I don't have a plan yet. So I haven't said I'm going to do a bond issue yet. I really want to get people's feedback before we would move forward. The earliest I could do a bond issue would be this May. But we really want to get a lot of feedback. I tell you, any Rotary, Kiwanis Club, anybody that asks me to come out and talk, I'll do this presentation for them, let them know what's going on and get their feedback with it. So, I tried to go through that pretty quickly tonight, but I would really like to open it up for your questions. And like I said, if I can't answer it, somebody who can. Troy's got the mic. If you prefer to just talk real loud, that's fine too. I think we're having some trouble with that already. Hi. And could you, because Carrie's taking notes. You got it? Maybe he'll try. Could you at least tell us what your name is, please?
My name is Melissa Polendo. Hi. Hello. Okay, so my name is Melissa Polendo. I do a lot of stuff here in the community. I wanted to thank you. My kids are actually benefiting from the new renovations at Miller Park. They go to Nelson Mandela, and so they do little field trips across the street. They think it's the best thing in the world. One thing that you did not address was the conversation about a new juvenile detention center. I wanted to see what the plans were for that, because I feel like my community is going to be directly impacted by that. We do have a lot of over-policing, a lot of stuff going on. We also have an issue with suspensions and detentions from pre-K to second grade, and we deal severely with this cradle to prison pipeline that's not being addressed. We look at development, we look at taxes and all of these things that my community, we appreciate. We appreciate the ideas of these business districts and the North 24th Street and Forever 75 North doing all these things. But to me, we see it as a threat to our community, and the issues that need to be addressed are not being addressed, which is our children, our jobs, and our infrastructure. Because if we had the money, I'm sure we would be able to build our own community that we'd like. We just are lacking the opportunity. So how can you better explain the plans for the juvenile detention center, and maybe, like, I know for like OPS, they put out something, I think it was last year, in regards to how the children are being suspended from pre-K to second grade, and it was mostly minority children that were being affected. So can you address that?
Well, first of all, I will say this: the Juvenile Justice Center, the detention center, where it's going to be, what that building is going to look like, is not a project of the city of Omaha.
Okay.
So I have nothing really to do with that. That comes from the Douglas County Board, and that is their project. What they did do is they, the funding that they wanted for that project, they ran it through the building commission. Meaning, and when they run it through the building commission, meaning the building commission will issue the bonds, but the Douglas County Board will pay the bond debt. So the city of Omaha is not even paying for it. It's a Douglas County project. So right now, because of the lawsuit filed, it's kind of stopped in its tracks right now. To really find out what their intention is and where they're going from here, you would have to ask a member of the Douglas County Board, because again, it is not our project. Now, I will say this, I'll give you my own opinion, and I bet you Chief Schmatter will give you his opinion too. But I think we all agree that there is a need for an expansion of our courthouse. Where the juvenile courts are, on the 6th floor of the courthouse, if you've ever been there, it's a mess. And they need new courthouses, they need for more judges. I don't think anybody disagrees that there's a need for new juvenile courts, I'll say. I think we all agree that. Where the detention center is, how it's going to run, what those programs are, that is just something that the city of Omaha, the mayor, the city council, we haven't been involved in. We agree with you that, I mean, I do think that we have put a priority on our youth. I think what the Empowerment Network has done, you say it's about youth, it's about jobs. What they have done with their programming, Willie, 700 this year? About 700 youths in the Step Up Summer Jobs program. And that program was originally designed to help youth stay off the street and get employment, not stuff like you know, mowing the grass and sharpening pencils, but really good jobs with businesses all over Omaha. I think we have over 100 businesses, Willie, this year or more. Banks and architecture firms, and the city of Omaha for the first time this year employed kids in the Step Up Summer Jobs program. They were in the police department, the fire department, the planning department, even in the law department. We had kids in that summer jobs program, and especially to expose them to the opportunities that are out there. What we do with Heartland Workforce Solution too, one-stop shop there for getting you everything from how to do a job search to how to do a resume to how to get the skills for the jobs that are out there. So I do think when I talked about what the city invests for workforce development, including youth, we've done a lot more than any other administration has done. As far as, you've asked, you kind of brought up a lot of questions. The schools, you know, we are good partners with the schools. Of course, the schools have their own elected school board, so we don't have authority over the public schools. I do quarterly meet with all the area superintendents, and I meet with the principal of Mandela. She comes in too, Dr. Tui, and we talk about how the city can better partner with the schools and what's going on in the schools that we can partner with. For example, we just had our meeting last week, and one of our deputy police chiefs came in and told them about threat assessment and what all we have done within the Omaha Police Department for threat assessments and letting the principals know, which is a big benefit to them with their students. So I think a lot has been going on and happening, but as far as that actual juvenile justice center, where it's going to be, if it's even going to happen now, I can't answer that question. Chief, did you want to say any other thing about how you feel about juvenile justice?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great questions in what you said. The mayor and I we're for juvenile justice reform. We obviously understand that if we can help children now, then on the back end we all benefit. So we're definitely for that. It's just as a city entity, we didn't really have much of a say in how all this went. Not to say it's going poorly. I look forward to the opportunity to have this up and running. So there's that. The second piece you mentioned, was it Cradle to Prison Pipeline?
Yes.
And then you also mentioned over-policing issue.
Yes.
Those are two national talking points. But when you have a national talking point, you got to apply it to the local community as well. Okay, because there'll be some cities in which the increase in arrests in our school system have gone up, and then probably that national talking point would apply. Or there will be some cities like Omaha, where for the last 7 years, because while that's being talked about now, it's kind of a thing being talked about now, we were addressing that 8-9 years ago, because that was something that we saw and envisioned. So the arrest in our school system, it started way up here, and it's way down to here now. So the progress is good. Do we need to keep an eye on it? Do we need to keep churning some better products? Sure, we do, but the product's good. And as far as the over-policing issue, we pride ourselves in trying to police appropriately. Okay, because we can't go away. You need us. Okay, we're partners with you. And I just want to harken on just the crime stats that have gone down. The one thing I will say that keeps me up at night is I never want our homicide rate to creep up again. If we used to average 45, high 40s homicides a year. If we could stay in the 20s or lower, maybe this year will even be lower, be our best one on record. That's 25 families a year that don't have to deal with the loved one that was lost. Okay, that's tangible people, even though we're talking about stats. So I want to kind of focus on that a little bit as well. I completely agree that those are issues. I'm just saying that there are issues that we've attempted to address. We haven't been deaf to them, and we'll continue to address them as things come forward. I really appreciate the high-level questions, though. You and I could probably talk for hours, but I'm gonna let some other questions go.
Thank you.
Are you gonna try to, did we give up the microphone? Okay.
We have the room reserved for the next 30 minutes, so at 7:30 we'll have to. So if you can reserve your questions just one at a time, that way we can get to as many people as possible. I'll kind of come to the next, so I'll stand next to you so we can get as many questions as possible.
Hi, I live and work in North 24th Street area. You mentioned roads, and we also mentioned waste management. And I think about alleyways. Many of our communities, like my home, abuts an alleyway, and so it's actually where our trash is picked up. Is that a consideration when you're looking at the road improvement and how trash, pickup will move through the communities?
Oh, sure. I mean, I mentioned that earlier. I said this is a combination of automated, basically semi-automated, because I said that there are areas of the city that park on the street, low-hanging trees in alleyways. And so, yes, I mean, alleyways are part of it, or that's how they're gonna pick up in the alleyways. Bob, it's the semi-automated. They'll go down, somebody will come out, pick the cart up, move it around to the back, and it would be a rear loader, and it would dump it in the truck. So they're still not picking up the whole cart. These guys can't pick up a 96-gallon cart.
I guess my question is there a thought for improvement of our alleyways?
Oh, improvement of the alleyways.
Yes, because of
I'm gonna let Bob talk. Public Works Director, he'll talk about improvement of alleyways. We do improve our alleyways.
Yeah, so this falls right into what they're talking about from the standpoint of additional funding. So right now, in fact, we don't have a lot of funding. We look at arterial streets, big number one priority, collector road, big number two, locals, and then alleys. So obviously, when they don't have funding available, alleys become kind of the low one, and you don't take care of it. Obviously, if the citizens vote, that gives us more funding, the potential for us to do maybe more with regard to those alleys.
You know, one thing I want to explain too about the roads, there's kind of two pots of money. One is our capital improvement plan where we have our bond dollars. The other, what I'm really talking about tonight, is street maintenance. In that capital improvement plan, it's a 6-year plan, and those are transportation bonds. We have about $320 million over 6 years for major road projects. In 2019, $66 million alone this year on major road projects. It's that resurfacing, that other pot of money, and it's got to be a balance between those. And so that's what I'm talking about that we're really, really falling short on. That's the one that we have the gap of $34 million a year. And that's the one that I think we really need to concentrate on. And you know, people talk to me a lot about, they'll say we need more bike lanes on the road, and we need more public transportation. And some people talk about, they still talk about a streetcar sometime. All of those are things that can be discussed as far as transportation options, but the roads are fundamental to everything else. You can't put a bike lane on a road full of holes. You know, you've got to fix your roads first. That's the priority, and that's why I think we really have to come up with a solution and not just this Band-Aid approach that we've been doing for years, decades.
I know you spoke about safety being my priority, and then you talked about homeless. Well, I bought a home at 1528 Florence Boulevard, and I thought personally, when I graduated college, the best thing I could do is to live in my community to pay taxes. However, Sienna Francis really takes over our community in but we're not getting what we need for the safety of our community and our children. I mean, I literally had somebody homeless come sit on my porch and play with my dog and ask me, do you have a meal? How unsafe is that?
Well, let me first address the homeless, because I think we need to address the root of the problem, rather than just we need more police officers policing them. And I'll let Todd answer that one. But as far as the homeless go, we are partners with the business and philanthropic community, and we are right now we are building a new facility at the Sienna Francis House. It will, oh gosh, I had this on the tip of my tongue. So the beds now are about 450 beds, I believe, which is at least twice, if not, I'm trying to think of what it is now. I knew it, it's slipping my mind, but they are building a new facility right now. There will be a facility for men, there'll be a facility for women. It is due to open December 15th. That will have a lot more space for our homeless population, or those who are homeless now, and it will also offer a lot of services and social services to help get them out of this downward spiral of being homeless. As soon as that opens up, the current shelter they're in right now, they have already raised enough money, and this is private dollars, to remodel that whole facility that they are in now, the Sienna Francis House, and that is going to be the day center.
Okay, so we're going to keep the Sienna Francis House and rebuild it. And in fact, we can make pretty buildings, but how are we going to transform lives?
That's what I'm talking about. Number one, there'll be a day shelter. We don't have a day shelter now. So in the day, what do? They tell them all to leave the shelter. Number one, there's not enough room for them because there's not enough beds. Number two, they make them leave because they want to clean it. With this new facility that is near being done, there'll be more beds, that they will have places to sleep, and then they will redo the current shelter to be a day shelter. So they're not going to push them all out on the street during the day. They're going to say, you have a place to stay during the day with a meal, restroom facilities, etc. And all of that is really based around programming too. What they are going to do to help people get the services they need, whether it's because of addiction, because of mental health. That's the goal of the new shelters that they're building. And they're not thinking about it. The new shelter is almost open, like I said, December 15th. So that is the one thing that I think is really going to make a difference. That is, I think what they're building now is going to be a model for other communities too, because there is going to be a lot more room for the things that we need to do. Now, as far as policing the areas, I think that the day shelter alone, to have a decent day shelter and a large day shelter, is going to make a lot of difference because it gives them a place to go.
With that shelter, I want to say, the question is this going to be a dry facility or a wet facility?
It's still a wet facility.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems. My question is, why do we move that facility and be somewhat close to the open door mission, just like we have, how can I say it, we have your work release program, we have the open door mission program, and then just having a little bit more land to just kind of transfer that, because then you have a one-stop with
I think a lot of thought and effort went into this, but again, that the current shelter is there on that site, and they are going to take advantage of that big building being there and be able to remodel it for a day shelter. So it's not, I think it's a matter of being efficient too, building on current land that they own, being able to remodel the current shelter. I think it's just a lot more efficient doing that way. There was a car, like a junkyard there along one side of it that has been purchased and cleaned up. That will help clean up that area too. The park that is adjacent to the Sienna Francis House is
that's right now too far.
Helen, yeah, that's been cleaned up, and so there's a lot of effort going into that area. Can we let you?
This is the last thing I say, and thank you for respecting my time, is we have so much policing during the College World Series that as soon as that College World Series is gone, where are you?
Right. I mean, you touched on two very difficult issues. The first, and they're both capacity issues. Capacity for the homeless and capacity for mental health in the city, the state, the whole region, really. So the mayor talked about increasing our capacity to deal with the homeless population who need our help. Okay, we need them to go somewhere. So the mayor talked about that capacity deficiency that we're trying to shore up. The second capacity deficiency is just that mental health piece that you talked about. And there's a few things going on in the city now to get some steam moving on those fronts with UNMC, and then also Sarpy County has some beds that they're talking about coming available. But in the meantime, there's two entities that get caught up in the middle of this. One, you especially because you live there, and the police secondarily because they're not necessarily committing crimes. So what we need to do is probably get together and convene some type of meeting. How many commanders have you talked to? We need to do something in the meantime until the capacity gets up where you don't have these issues.
Well, I spoke to several officers, but after one incident in my neighbor's home, that was time for me to say, hey, we start getting some higher. Again, I thought personally the best way to deal with North Omaha is to have professionals who are down there. And sometimes I question my judgment. Should I have bought
Let's get some of the higher level commanders together. I'll get your number after, and let's work this out, because you got to understand the position I'm in. On one end, I'm getting questions of over policing, and now I can't oversaturate an area that's not right. Well, the park is an issue for sure, so that's something that we could probably intervene on. I appreciate the question.
I have two questions. One is there a planning department in here somewhere?
Planning?
I have a problem. I live in Belvedere Heights. Beautiful Belvedere Heights. But it seems like people just jump up and build stuff, put stuff up. It's terrible. And I know you know one person I'm talking about. The man with the fence. And then the man built the fort over on the Reddit, 32nd and you know about that? 31st and Reddit, right on the corner, looks like a fort. He just built it, and aren't you supposed to get a permission or something to build stuff?
Absolutely sure. Anytime you
And the man with the fence, I mean, the cops have been out there so many times. I don't have a problem with the fence. I'm right here back there. But in front, there's like a jail there or something.
I think to answer the specific area, we're going to have to look into that and get back, because I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. But let Dave tell you just generally in the planning department what the process is. If you build things, you have to get permits. They have to be approved. Why don't you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, anytime you build something, most things you're going to build require a permit from the planning department.
We're always good at mixers the chief. This question is for you.
Thank you.
But of course, you're in charge. You're the head.
So, can I add one thing? When this is over, I'll give you my business card.
Okay.
And you have my contact. I'll give it to you.
But anyway, I have an issue. Recently, my children got me a little car that I really like.
Okay.
And I did speak to a policeman at the Walmart on Ames. He was very nice. And as a matter of fact, I called and said some nice things about him. He was a white brother. And, but, you know, I was riding down the hill in North Omaha, and here comes this police officer. I had a transit tags. I thought he was going to run into me because he was trying to see if I was in order, you know, that I wasn't out of date. Now, and the first of the month, you can't hardly ride down the street within transit in North Omaha. I have a problem with that because you know what? I'm out, like when I leave here tonight, I'll be going out to 84th and Dodge. My son works out there, and I'll be picking him up. I see cars out there within transit that's been out, and nobody bothers them. I'm telling you the truth, Chief. Maybe they're not aware of this, or is the deputy sheriff here? Is he supposed to have something to do with that, Chief? The head man?
He's a head man.
The sheriff? We'll handle it.
This is the problem I have. You know, when I call the police officer, usually they're really nice. we're inundated with officers in back of us, it really gets on your nerves.
Yeah. I do understand. I understand so well. I just got off the phone with my daughter before coming here. She got a ticket, not in Omaha, somewhere else. So it's terribly inconvenient. Let me try to address it. We want to be in the community to be helpful. That's all we're trying to do. And if things are overstepping, let me take a chance to put it back in line, okay? Because you called and said some nice things. I think I got that message, by the way. They forwarded it up to me. So it's good to put a face to the message. So I'm sure she did.
Thank you. Let's get a couple more. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ronnie James, Concourse Square Homeowners Association. I want to thank you for everything you have done. I've seen a lot of improvement since you've been there. I voted for you. So basically, I just wanted to talk again, once again, it's another national talking point again. Back to the same thing with the homeless and stuff. I've lived in Concourse Square and in the surrounding community, which is an area I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with. It has grown up with one of the North Omaha areas that has stayed firm to our the way it looks, and the point with the Omaha Planning Department put it all together and stuff like that. It's still currently the way it is today. Much because we got a lot of active neighbors that really care about what's going on. And then speaking to the point of the Sienna Francis house, I understand and we understand that there's going to be homeless, and there's a problem with homeless all over the world, all over the United States, like national talking point. And I know we're expanding the shelter, but expanding the shelter is more or less bringing more people in. We've seen that since the expansion of that shelter has gotten out, we've seen a large influx of homeless in our particular area, so much that they're hanging out in the parks and everything like that because they're waiting for this. My question is, what are we planning on doing with the overflow? So say, for instance, you fill up the 400 beds and then you fill up the day room, then where do the rest of those people go? Because now we got 400 more beds. We didn't have enough before, now we got double that, and we got double the people.
To add to that also, one more thing. With those people that don't want to go to the shelter, there's some now that are lined up on the right by the Matt bus station there, or the Metro, on the benches now. And those people don't want to go to the shelter, so I don't know what you're going to be able to do with those people that just want to stay out. They don't want to go.
Our shelter is at 150% capacity almost all the time. So, with the more beds, we're going to provide places for them to stay and not have to stay on the floor. The number that come into the shelter, though, on an average, stays pretty much the same. It's not build it and they will come. Okay. But I'll let time.
Well, here's you got some other questions.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and just one other question. Like I said, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the solution is that, but I'm saying the biggest thing what we might want to look for, almost like we said, is kind of like sharing the solution, like building multiple places. Because I know some of the people, I've been out as far as 168, and we got the panhandlers that stay out there.
Yes.
They come all the way back down here at night. So why not try to build some more facilities or full service facilities throughout the community so that we can all share the burden and see exactly where that's at, rather than concentrating it all in one place.
Ma'am, we got to try and get this. We have a gentleman here in the black shirt that's been waiting a long time, and then we have a woman in the back. If we could get to those specific questions, we want to try. We only have about 10 minutes left.
Let me just touch on it real quick. Clearly, we've got some work to do on this issue. More than just a one-on-one meeting with us, we got to get together with the neighbors here and work this out. There are a number of things that we need to learn to define this problem even further, other than just, we need a more in-depth conversation than tonight. Let me work with you after. I'll work with the precinct captain, one of my deputy chiefs. Let's get something together and have some type of special forum where we can get the neighbors to come to address this issue. Because clearly it's an issue. Let's define it a little further and address it the best we can. Because you got an immediate problem right now. even if we were to build another facility somewhere else, you're years away. Let's address this immediate problem. National talking point or not, I love it, it applies, okay? So we'll adjust it.
My name is Shelley Hollis. I live on 21st and Charles. I live by Run, and I live close to this lady here. I've been there for 17 years. We are saturated with homeless people. It gets worse year after year after year. And Chief, these people are sleeping in the parks around the clock. They're making makeshift tents, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sexual acts. Our families can't even go to the park, and they're trashed. This is our quality of life. This is what we wake up to every day. We wake up to homeless people sleeping in our yards. Feces in the park, needles in the park. This is what's been happening for 17 years, and we've been talking about it, and it's getting worse.
Yeah. And that defines why we're here, okay? You talked about waking up, you got my attention here, okay? Everybody I see here, I look forward to, I'll be at this meeting as well. We need to get together and circulate a solution to this, because clearly it's affecting your quality of life. I don't want to sugarcoat it, I don't want to pacify you, I want to get a solution, okay? Be looking for us to put out a notice at some point relatively soon to get the neighbors together. We'll hold the meeting at our Northeast precinct. Let's define this further so we know what exactly the issue is, how we can address it, and we'll go from there. But you have my commitment to that. We got to address this problem.
I would like the Brook Benches and Parks Director. I know we have taken some and worked with your councilman in this area, Councilman Gray. We've taken some action in Pelham Greenbelt.
Yeah, we removed the playground, and we did do a lot of tree work in there, and we did do a lot of cleanup throughout that whole area. And I know Mr. Hollis, we've dealt with. Yeah, so they've kind of moved and they've shuffled out. But I think working with the chief's commitment and moving forward, I mean, we can put signs up. I mean, I've been there, Shelley, I've been down there. We do clean it up, and it obviously is an issue that we all need to work together to get over.
I want to ask one quick question.
Sir, we got a lady back here.
Sure, I'm sorry.
There are programs there. The addiction program is a full 12 months that people are actually in-house treatment program. But what I said in the beginning is that with this new facility, it also includes the programming and the services to try to get them out of this downward spiral and for whatever reason that they are homeless now. There's a real interesting sociology, I think, with many homeless. Like to gather in outdoor spaces. That's why with the work we're doing on the Gene Layton Mall, that used to be a place where the homeless gathered during the day. But our public parks are not meant to be homes for the homeless. They're just not. So as we started that work, that at the same time, we felt like this issue with the Sienna Francis house had to be addressed too. I think once it opens up, and once that day shelter is up and running, and those services are available, I think you're going to see a lot of change. But I'm thinking, Chief, along with a meeting with with your staff, that the director of the Sienna Francis house, it might be a good idea for her to be involved in this.
We'll have a lot of people at this meeting, not just the police department. We'll have a lot of entities. We could talk a lot about what's been done, but the reality, if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, let's get this opening meeting going. Let's address it. I'll be there with my top commanders, who I just communicated with, that we're getting this going.
Could we have you commit to coming to the meeting, Mayor? Could we have you come to that same meeting with us?
Sir.
No.
I want to get him a red t-shirt.
So that's enough.
The question I want to ask is that it's not about all this other stuff. What do we do about these slumlords? I mean, like where I live, this guy got 5 cars in his yard. He got a truck. He's got one of these big old dumpsters that's been sitting there for a month that he had cleaned out his house and it's still sitting there. You know, and then on the other side of me, the people's got ducks, a pig, and 2 bulldogs. You know, and I don't feel like I should have to live like that.
What was your first? I didn't hear. Did you say what to do with slumlords?
Absentee landlords.
Okay, all right. Let me just answer your question here. You know, we've had so much discussion with Dave's Department of Planning, code inspection over the last year or so. We now have a new ordinance. It's a landlord registration ordinance that will begin January 1st of 2020 when our landlords need to register with the city of Omaha. We are also, along with that, we are going back 3 years to landlords that have unresolved code violations, and our code inspectors are going out and they are going to make sure they come into compliance. We are concentrating mostly on that now, those that have unresolved code violations. Part of that is education, because we want people to understand that us on our own, we can't go out and inspect anything unless we have a complaint. You can complain, anybody can file a complaint. It doesn't have to be the person living there or the person next door. But as soon as we have a complaint, we can send one of our inspectors out to inspect that area, or that facility or the yard or whatever. And then people will have a certain amount of days to resolve those code violations. I think that Dave has done a lot in the department. We have added code inspectors. Last year at this time, we've had 6. Right now, we have 9. We added 2 more in the budget for 2020. And so I think if you give us some time, because now we have the resources available, I think you will see a lot different. I think that we need to give some of those that have code violations a chance to resolve them and be good landlords. But I will tell you this, I would say that 98% of the landlords in Omaha are good, and they do a good job. We need to concentrate on that 2% that don't, and we will. So I hope you'll see it different. Dave, did you want to add anything else? But what I'm asking all of you is, if you see something like that, whether it's in the yard or the house, please call the planning department and file a complaint. That gives us the ability to go out and inspect. Okay, let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Dave can talk to you a bit after. Can I take 2 quick? I hope yours is quick, because you gave your hand in for quick.
I know you're the mayor of Omaha, but we need a mayor for the dark community. We need people for the dark community. Our whole community is being overlooked, and the only concern that y'all have, as far as I see, is coming up with budgets, and then when you come up with your budget without us what y'all need, and then, but that total goes to support people in our, which is the Northeast community. And it's time when we gonna start getting looked upon as being people and a chance to own homes. And when you walk down your street or when you open your door to come out and get your newspaper, you're looking at a beautiful community, a beautiful yard.
Right.
You come down our city, we don't get to do that because we don't have the things that we need. We don't have programs to come to our community and uplift our community. We don't have enough places that people working for. It takes 3 people down in one household to have a job for you to just pay your bills. We're waiting because this is what's going to get a mayor for the Northeast.
I apologize. I didn't understand everything you were saying. Did you?
I understood what he said. So he's basically saying that North Omaha is not represented. If you leave and you go further out, every community, every house, it looks beautiful. You come here and it's different. It's different because we're not represented. Nobody cares about our community. And we can go over points.
I will say that's okay.
So that's what he, but that, you asked me to repeat what he said. That's what he said.
Let me answer. You've already had your, let me answer. You have a council representative in this area, Ben Gray. You have a state legislator, Ernie Chamber. You have me as the mayor, and to say that we don't care about this area, I will disagree with you. There has been, for instance, there has been more street work in East Omaha, including Northeast Omaha, than anywhere else in the city. If you look at some of these areas like 75 North, if you look at what we are doing with the new grant, the HUD grant that we said, there has been a lot of investment in the area in Northeast Omaha than there has been in other areas of the city. I think it's unfair to say we don't care about we don't represent this area well. There has been a lot as far as workforce development. We talked about that. We've talked about the step-up program, workforce development, getting people the skills for the jobs that are out there. We have a labor shortage in Omaha. If people want jobs, there are jobs out there, but we have invested in helping people get the training and identify those areas that they want to work in. There's been a lot.
People here to get involved in their neighborhood associations. Even the mayor mentioned the Forever North study, as well as the 24th Street Business Improvement District. Those are people on the ground who are trying to improve the community that they live and work in. We can all do our part. North Omaha is a very large region. Get involved in your neighborhood. I'm involved in mine. That's how you create change. Then, when you can show the impact you make, you can then address the city officials with the impact you make. But I can tell you that it's going to take all of us getting in our individual communities to do our part. And so I encourage you, whether you're in the Miller Park area, whether you're in the North 24th Street area, to get involved, because that's what it's going to take. I just want to encourage that.
I thank you, Vanya. And you know, you were up in my office the other day, and we were talking about just this thing. We were talking about how we can improve. You're working on the BID with us. That's how we're going to have change, if we work together. And that's why we are here tonight, to hear what your issues are and to try to answer your issues. We are open to working with you. We will make it better if we work together. There's no doubt about it.
I just have one question.
Okay,
For
last question, and then we're done.
That's fine.
We
We have a public health crisis in northeast Omaha, and I have reason to know because I had a son that died from asthma, and we know that we've had some issues in our soil and some of the shingles on roads. We know, and I have a reason to know, and everyone in this room should have a reason to know that we had a super site designation at one time. There's been an abatement of some of the soil, but we still have very high incidence of asthma. far as our children, and that leads to absentees in school, which leads to other issues. We should have a public conversation about how that happened in North Omaha, what are some of the remedies for our children in particular, and how do we address those health issues and treat it like a public health issue the way that it is. I don't know that we have permission to address that, and if we don't have one, then maybe we should appoint one. And I have a particular interest because, like I said, my child grew up in North Omaha and he died from asthma. I know that he died from asthma as a result of playing in Miller Park when he was very young, and that soil was contaminated, and none of the residents at that time were informed that our kids were playing in contaminated soil.
First of all, I'm sorry about your son. I will say this, we know why we have the lead. I mean, we've had the
The lead came from
lead Let me address it though. I think we know why that there is lead around. Let me tell Dave, let me have Dave, the planning director, tell you what we have been doing and what we are doing as far as lead abatement, what the city's doing, the money we have from the EPA.
So like we're one of the few cities in the country that we're like a poster child for remediating those types of issues in our community. So we've received millions of dollars of federal funding to clean up the soils in parks, in private residence neighborhoods, everywhere. We've received a lot, and we've done a lot of good work. We also have programs where lead paint abatement, right? So we have monies available that will help folks abate that lead-based paint that's on their houses that sometimes falls into the soil and creates even further issue with the lead in the soil. So we've done a lot of work. I don't have all the statistics with me now, but if you want those statistics, and if they need, okay. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a team of people who that's what they do. There's 8 or 9 of them in my department that they work with that program. They work with contractors.
How are they addressing the health disparities with our children as a result of the lead and the emissions?
Well, I'm talking about the programs that are helping clean that up. So,
okay, but I don't think that addresses my question. Right. Because clean up is one thing, but addressing the health disparities is something else. So,
we have Charles that comes to certain schools that are low income, so they can get proper dental care, because we found out that if we teach kids how to brush their teeth, guess what, when they're 30, they'll have it.
correct.
So what things are we doing for children for any testing related to upper respiratory?
Well,
That I believe is
well, I can't answer that because the planning department, that's not one of our functions, right?
So we don't get anybody.
No, what I was going to say is public health is something that is not under the authority of the city. That's the Douglas County has the health department. I would be guessing if I would tell you all the programs they have as far as what they have in place for education, for children, for detecting. I would have to have somebody else work with me to go through those with you.
You being a nurse,
Former nurse.
being a former nurse, I'm being a nurse. Once you're a nurse, you're always a nurse. Because you have to pass it. So I think we do have a vested interest.
No, definitely an interest, but I'm just saying it's kind of not under our authority.
What she's asking is how do you bridge the gap between Douglas County, which we don't know, okay? Probably the reason why we don't know is how can we become leaders in our community so we can go? And the more we see face in our community, the more we can say, oh, this is what this individual is saying, or this is what this is actually meant. But we don't have enough leaders that look like us that we can understand. Because I think what this gentleman is saying is, invite me to sit at your table and explain to me what you're doing.
But I said you have a council member, Ben Gray, that represents you. I invited him here tonight. You have a state legislator that represents you. I mean, you have the Douglas County Board, Chris Rogers, that represents you. These are people that should be working with you too. I mean, they are elected by you to represent you. Those people that I just mentioned, not just me, but them too. So I think that it's a discussion that needs to happen. But I think the answer is not just in one person. It's not just in one person. So,